recently did a video reviewing some PetSmart care guides on gecko care, and today I'm going to be doing the same with snakes. Someone sent these to my PO box, asked me to review them. I'm doing it up. You can watch the first one if you want, but you don't really need it to understand this video. However, in the first video, I talk more about why I'm very against buying from Petco or PetSmart, so I recommend you check that out if you plan on buying from Petco or PetSmart when it comes to getting a live reptile. If you want a dead one, maybe, but that's not really what this channel is about anyway. We've got getting to know your ball python and getting to know your king, corn, and milk snake. Since this one's a meaty 3 species in one, we're gonna start with ball pythons. I feel like I shouldn't have said meaty. Anyway, and then we've got dazzling and docile. Can be docile. The babies at these pet stores, not so much. They can be though. We've got ball pythons. They get their name because they curl on the tight balls when their heads blah blah blah. Yeah, alright, I don't really care. We've got the experience level, intermediate. The gecko ones were both marked as beginner. I would agree. The ball pythons are more difficult than both of them. They can grow up to 60 inches. What's that, 5? 4, 5? Yeah, that's 5 feet. True. I think a couple have passed that maybe, but the average is definitely like 4 feet, 4 to 5 feet. Lifespan, ball pythons can live up to 30 years. Also true, but it really depends on the husbandry. And there are just those occasional cases of animals getting sick when it's out of your control, stuff like tumors and just things that happen. But that's why it's an average, and they can live up to that, but it's not guaranteed exactly. A lot of people think it is guaranteed, and when they buy reptiles from like they ask us, how long is it gonna live? I'm like, I mean, it depends how you care for it. And they'll specifically say, I know what the lifespan is, but how long is this one gonna live? I'm not. Anyway, let's continue. We've got diet. Ball pythons are carnivorous and feed on rodents. Cool. Sounds good. Personality, they're docile and naturally curious, I guess. I mean, it's called personality. Like, it's different for every ball python, but there's a chance it's docile, and it's really up to how you care for it, where it's from, and how you work with it. Behavior, they're more active at night. Yeah, probably because they're nocturnal. That makes sense. In the terrarium image, it looks like we've got a 20-gallon with the ball python. We've got a water bowl, a single hide, some random decor, some thermometers, and 2 lights, and aspen shavings, and no under tank heating. Well, we'll look at this list later. First, let's look at the temps and everything there. We've got daytime 90. Yeah, that's what we keep ours at. 85 to 80 on the cool side. Yeah, sometimes drop to like 75, but whatever. Humidity 30 to 50. This is very low. Anything under like 50, you have a much higher chance of stuck shed because the snake is not moist enough to basically get that shed off in one piece, which is the goal. So I would say that it's weird that they put that, because the gecko ones were actually pretty accurate with numbers, but why would they say 30 to 50? Probably because they're trying to sell you aspen, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I agree with all these actually, so woo. Oh wait, no. I gave it a check mark, but you get my point. Next up, how do I set a ball python terrarium up? Ball pythons should live alone in a glass terrarium, at least 40 gallons with a screen lid. For some reason they showed 20-gallon here. I mean, you can tell it's a 20 because that lamp, that's what the lamp looks like on 20. Maybe it's a juvenile though. They don't mention that. And obviously these aren't super in-depth guides, so it's not absolutely perfect, but they do say that this is a vet assured, the standard for pet care. And also somebody went in and circled them all with blue ink, so I assume they just had a vet come in, like I said in the last one, and just started scribbling them. Ball python should live in a 40 with a screen lid. Yeah, for males, I think 40 is usually good. For females, they do get bigger, so I usually recommend bigger than a 40. Also, it doesn't have to be a glass terrarium. You can use tubs, you can use wooden enclosures. A lot of people say not to use glass. I think glass is fine, but there's a lot more options than glass, but obviously they sell glass terrariums, so they're gonna want you to buy those. In fact, that's the only thing they sell for ball pythons. It's the most expensive, not too surprising. Line the bottom with reptile carpet or 2 inches of aspen. I hate using aspen for animals like this. I just hate aspen in general. I have a whole video dedicated to hating on aspen. You can watch that if you want. I'm perfectly okay with people using it for corn snakes, king snakes, milk snakes. Hey, that's what's in this guide. We'll see what that says. I haven't actually read these yet, so this is my real-time reaction. It's a no-go for aspen. It's stupid to use it. However, there's going to be a lot of people watching this that do use aspen, and it can work, but it's just so much easier to use the alternatives that give you a much more guaranteed chance of good health in your animal. Like I said, they need higher humidity to shed, to not get a respiratory infection, and to stay just more hydrated overall and not dry out. And aspen, when you spray it, it molds. and if it gets wet, it molds. So cocoa fiber is way easier. Same with reptile carpet. It's not easy to have that humidity, but at least it's not as gross as aspen. Remove droppings frequently and change bedding monthly. If you have a bioactive enclosure, you don't really need to change the substrate. I'll be honest, when I didn't have bioactive and when I just dumped stuff in, I could usually get it to last a couple months. So ball pythons require a temp gradient on the cool and warm side. Can agree with that. And I'll partially agree with this. It's just you have other options and you might want something bigger for a female. I'm gonna say no to this just because it's a aspen. Place a daytime heat bulb over the habitat to provide warmth. Turn off for 12 hours at night. Well, technically you can use a heat bulb for ball pythons. I have before, but it's so much easier to use a heat mat linked to a thermostat. Just like leopard geckos, they said heat lamp, I say heat mat. Thermostat controls the actual temperature, so much easier. Also, they really enjoy to be able to hide while being warm, so it's a lot easier to hide and be warm when there's heat from the base, and it warms up their tummy, helps them digest, I'd say that. So I'm gonna disagree with this. It can work, but it's just easier to do the other alternative. Add 2 thermometers, 1 on each side. These things suck. I mentioned it before. Any of those cheap ones, they are not accurate in my experience, and they can fall off, and that residue is extremely strong. The adhesive can get stuck and really hurt the reptiles. It's rare, but when you can just take them out and use something basically the same price, why not just do that? So much easier, cheaper, more reliable. You can use a temp gun to measure the temperatures, and then you could also use a digital thermometer and then use a thermostat to control them, which they don't mention. And I'm surprised, because if they did, that would be a lot more revenue, because their thermostats are like 3 times more expensive than they are on Amazon. Like the Zilla one, which I don't even like the Zilla one, it's like $70 something at one of these stores, Petco or PetSmart, I don't know which one. They're basically the same thing. Place 2 hides in the terrarium. They only have 1 here, but they mentioned 2. Yeah, we just try to make multiple hiding places for them. 1 on the warmer, 1 on the cooler. It doesn't have to be a hide. Like I say, you can use branches or decor, just anything that really covers the animal well. But hides are the easiest, so yeah, I'll agree with that. Stock the tank with branches for hiding and climbing. Yeah, let's go for it. And then mist the habitat or use a fogger. So I'm not a big fan of the foggers, and they're not super reliable. I've had a couple break, but you can't mist aspen. In my experience, I don't really have to spray the ball pythons here just because it is a little bit more humid in this area. As it's coming into winter though, probably need to spray it occasionally, so yeah. And for more info, go to blah blah blah. We don't need to go there. What should I feed my ball python? Their diet consists of small rodents, so that's actually correct. As adults, they can eat pretty big rodents. Most of our adult ball pythons will eat medium rats, frozen thawed. We recommend frozen and thin thawed for safety of pet and pet parent. So I actually agree with that. But also one of these stores, I don't remember which one, refuses to sell them as feeders, and you have to sign a waiver saying you're not going to feed the rodents off. So I think it's more publicity thing, because they don't want to be like, ew, Petco and PetSmart, they sell live animals and then they get eaten by the other live animals. But I mean, it's the same thing when you get frozen thawed. I don't get it. Just say it's a pet. If you come in with a name and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna name it Jerry, and then you can get it, no problem. Anyway, just don't go to the same one every week and keep buying Jerry's. They might catch on. They should be out for food at nighttime. Doesn't really matter, but it does have a higher chance of them eating. Introduce territorial behavior, feed your snakes in a separate habitat. I actually really disagree with this. To me, it's more stressful on the animal, and people say it's so that they don't associate the enclosure with food, but if you move them to another thing, they're gonna associate you with picking them up as eating. I have a very old video on why I don't recommend taking them out of the enclosure. It's cringy little baby me. I'm still cringy, but I'm less of a baby sometimes, and you can watch that if you want. And then a large dish to drink from, and soak to maintain hydration. Soaking, it's proven that reptiles cannot absorb water through their skin. They just drink it, and if they're soaking, they're either overheated or they have mites. 98% of the time, I would say. And then how can I keep my ball python healthy? Contact a vet or PetSmart associate. I wouldn't ask some random person at PetSmart. Most PetSmart people either like dogs, like cats, like birds, or are there for their paycheck. I don't think many of them like reptiles. Obviously there's gonna be some, but running droppings for more than 2 days. I think this is kind of weird because, yeah, diarrhea in an animal, normally bad. Just like people, if it's just once and never again, it's nothing to really stress about. Upset tummy, difficulty digesting one day, whatever. But snakes only go as often as you feed them. So to me, they should have just said more than 2 weeks, but I'm nitpicking, I guess. I don't know. Eating or drinking less, weight loss. I mean, yeah. Drinking, most snakes don't need water, and they'd probably actually be fine without water bowls because they get most of their moisture from their food. Obviously, it varies by species. With ball pythons, I'd say they could survive without a bowl, but I wouldn't recommend that. So what I'm saying is if you never see your snake drink, but they have access to water, don't worry about it because they don't often need to, and you're not going to be watching them all the time. Like a dog, you're going to see drink constantly, but you might just never see them drink, so no biggie. Discharge, yeah, it's usually, it's always a problem. Shedding problems, discolored skin, avoidance of basking area, that just means it's too hot probably, or more time spent hiding. Ball pythons always hide. They're always, they can explore at night, they might come out, but I think they should be saying moving around too much and trying to get out too much because that's more of a concern. And then decreased frequency of droppings. Some ball pythons will just go a few weeks or even months. Months is probably concerning, but a few weeks without going, and it's not usually a big deal as long as you don't feel a big mass or anything. Sometimes it just builds up a bit more and then they release it later. So 40 gallon or larger, I actually agree. Screen lid, at least have some airflow, but doesn't have to be screened. Aspen, no thank you. Heat source, yes, but actually a good heat source, but good. 2 habitat thermometers and hydrometer, yes, but not the ones they say. Also thermostat, that says thermostat. Stuff, water dish, food bowl. Food bowl? I assume that's an issue. That's just an error. Frozen rodents and feeding tongs. Vet assured. This one's not horrible. I expected worse. Honestly, this is the identical husbandry to probably most snake care, and probably even other reptile channels do a lot of this. So I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm saying this is the most accurate to what most people do probably. I'm gonna give it I rated the other two. Here they are. Leopard Gecko's got a 0 out of 10. Cresty's got an 8 out of 10. I'm giving this one a 6. I'll do it on the front. 6 out of 10. Because it's not horrid. The animal would survive in this. It's just not perfect. So I think it deserves a 6. Honestly, pretty impressed. Next up, we've got getting to know your king corn and milk snake. These are 3 different species, and I care for them kind of differently. Just a bit. Not crazy different, but let's see what we got. Beginner. Yeah, let's go with that. Why not? King and corn grew to this, then blah, 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 who cares? These types of snakes live approximately 18 to 23 years. Very specific. Why doesn't it just say 20 to 25? That kind of annoys me. I don't know why. Multiple corns can be housed together, but king and milk should be housed individually. King snakes are pretty aggressive, not aggressive, but pretty crazy sometimes. I think they're called king snakes because they are immune to snake venom. Or maybe that's just something that people say, but isn't actually true. I think it's true. I don't know. If it isn't, it sounds cool at least. Yeah, and sometimes some of these animals are cannibalistic. Corns, I have seen in museums and stuff, them all being housed together. Obviously, museums aren't necessarily the best standard of animal care because there's a lot of variation in museums, but I would never sell to someone that's going to house them together unless they are going to have a breeding pair and they have 2 enclosures set up, because they can still really stress each other out. But I would say that corns, they are generally more in groups and more likely to be together. So I'd say it can work. If it was a beginner buy-in, I wouldn't have them buy 2 and be yeah, I'm gonna do 2 at once. Probably not a great idea. Is this the exact same picture as the ball python? No, they took the time to draw different hides and stuff, but it's the exact same. Anyway, let's see what we got. We got a 20 with 2 lamps, terrarium, screen lid, daytime bulb, heat lamp bulb, thermometer, basking sight. Yeah, let's see what we got. Temps, I actually agree with these temps. Humidity, I actually agree with it. And it's almost the same as the ball python. It's just a little different. So I agree with these numbers. Surprising. I feel filthy agreeing almost. House 1 snake in a 20 gallon. As adults, I would say they all need something bigger than a 20, except for some types of milks maybe. Corns can get pretty huge, and I would say a 40 or more sometimes. Line the bottom with reptile carpet or 2 inches of aspen. Back to aspen. Not as bad for these animals. Like I said, I don't like to use it, but it's not a big deal. Remove droppings, change bedding. Also, I wouldn't do reptile carpet. Milk snakes are usually burrowing animals. Same with kings. They tend to burrow more often. And corns, I've noticed the juveniles burrow more, but the adults don't. But I would definitely like to give that option to all of them. It's what some of them do in the wild and what they just feel comfortable doing. I would not use a reptile carpet. Temperature gradient to the same thing. I would use a thermostat. However, I think that heat lamps make a bit more sense with some of these. So like corns are crepuscular, some are more active during the day, and they actually do bask more. So I don't think a heat lamp's as big of a deal, but I still tend to use heat mats. It's easier, more effective, more efficient, and easier to keep up with. Mist your habitat as needed to maintain humidity. In almost every climate, you wouldn't need to mist any of these animals because it's probably like, as long as it's not, you're literally in the middle of Arizona with your windows open, you're probably going to be okay. These snakes are nocturnal. I mean, I don't keep kingsnake milks personally, so I don't actually know off the top of my head. I probably should. Corns, I think, are usually considered crepuscular, being active at dawn and dusk. Use a UVB bulb to mimic daylight. Well, if the animal is truly nocturnal, UVB isn't a requirement, but you still want a day and night cycle. So they know when it's daytime, know when it's nighttime. No lamps at night, in my opinion, unless it's a ceramic heat emitter, because those don't let off light, and then turn off the light at night. So yeah, you can use UVB. I don't think I mentioned it in this video, but with the geckos, I mentioned albino animals tend to be more sensitive to light. So I don't actually use UVB with albino nocturnal animals. If they're albino and diurnal, you kind of have to, because that means that they would get sun rays naturally. Same thing, rodents, feeder snake, frozen mice. This one doesn't actually say, like, it's weird how different they are. This one says the safety. This one doesn't mention the safety, so I don't know why. And then water, soaking, same thing. What are the issues? We've got labored breeding. That's not in the other ones. I'm not sure why. I'd say ball pythons are more susceptible to respiratory infections than corns, because corns are hardier. I don't know why it would only say it in this one. They've got decreased frequency in droppings. I mean, it's not necessarily a big deal, but it's good to check on it. Running droppings for more than 2 days. Same thing, that doesn't really make sense. And avoiding the basking area, more time hiding. I don't think this is a problem, but yeah, avoiding basking. However, when it comes to rat snakes, my rat snake Shadow, no matter what I've set the temperature to of a lamp or a mat, she always prefers it being cooler than what people would recommend for husbandry. So I literally just keep her at my room temperature, which is about 70, depends on the month, but 70 to 75, and she way prefers that for some reason. It's interesting, I've never seen an animal go so far off what I see recommended, because I thought that she would want like 85 degrees. Every single time she has anything over 80 degrees, she avoids it. So it's just kind of interesting. And they're native here, so in the cool months they go down to the 20s and 30s, but they're usually underground or in a tree or something. So 20, I would say bigger, but close enough. We're giving them some leeway. Locking screen lid. This one doesn't say locking, but I guess corns are a little more likely to get out. Same with milks and kings. And then we've got substrate. I just wouldn't do carpet, and I wouldn't do aspen. I would say coconut fiber for them, or a mix of stuff. Forest floor, reptile bark, stuff like that. Or tree bark. I don't know why it says reptile bark. It's reptiles don't bark. I mean, reptiles don't have bark. Daytime heat lamp and bulb, under tank heat mat. Wait, what? It didn't say the heat mat inside. It's just really weird, inconsistent things. Fluorescent light, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. It's not that bad overall. I rate this one, what'd I give ball python? 6? I'm gonna give it a 7.5 because it just didn't mention thermostats. And maybe the enclosures are too small. I don't think these are horrible. Like I said in the gecko one, associates there are not necessarily there to be reptile experts, and oftentimes they just want to get rid of the animals, and way more often they don't even follow any of this in their own stores, which is the most ironic thing. Is they don't. They do whatever they want. They just throw it in an enclosure, and they most certainly do not care when they have one of these. It varies by store. If you like tweet them on social media like PetSmart, this store is having problems, they always respond and say they'll look into it. Can't confirm if they do or not. There's definitely a ton of inconsistency, and I would highly recommend looking somewhere else. So that's my review of the 2 guides here. I assume this is all the ones they have, but if there's more, maybe there are more. And that is the king corn, leopard gecko, ball python, and cresty over 2 videos. So yeah, that's it. If you want to send me stuff to my P.O. box, I'll put it in my description, and maybe I'll use it for a video, or maybe I'll just throw it away if I'm concerned at what I get. Yeah, that's it for this video. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.